want to get to late game from Samsung Galaxy, perhaps to round themselves out nice.
Exactly, because again, we have seen RNG with a strong 2v2 bot lane where they could play around it. We've seen them with a very scaling 2v2 bot lane where they didn't go and visit Uzi at all. They played around XiaoHu in the mid lane instead. Mlxg is no longer the guy who just perma-ganks around everywhere. He is focused on farming and vision more than anything, but so is ambition.
Keeping track of the junglers in the early game is going to be a big one.
Hey, they banned the Java. It's gone.
Then the Shogat as well, getting that objective control and just late game, as the analyst S was talking about, out of there. No potential for him to just walk around through any sort of situation.
We will have Lulu Janna open most likely. RNG needs to make a decision here, make a choice. Do they want the Lulu for the stronger laning phase? Do they want the Janna for the stronger late game?
They've been losing to Lulu, so there is a chance they start to go in that direction. Also, we'll note there was a Twitch ban matched by a Kog'Maw, so both scaling AD carries get taken away, and now with Lulu Janna up, do you go to the AD carry?
Well, Sejuani is also available, and it's actually been a very big pick for a lot of junglers here during this tournament, especially if you need some sort of engage. That's what Sejuani can bring, and then you can still trade the Lulu Janna. They will go Tristana here, value that above it with all these AD carry bans.
Sejuani you were talking about is actually something that was taken away in one of their games. RNG did not want to play against that. Yeah.
To destroy them, honestly, in the early to mid game. Ambition gets it.
They did not want to see it.
I guess the thing for me is that Gragas is still there, and I personally prefer Gragas to Sejuani, but I can see a lot of value in Sej as a champion. In saying that, Tristana with Cog and Twitch gone, and Xayah gone, does stand to attention as one of the best remaining hyper carries that can control laning phase.
Would Mlxg go Rek'Sai for better early game? I think Gragas is the best choice here. I'm 100% with you on that one, but I wonder if he wants more gank pressure with Rek'Sai. It's been picked a few times. They first picked it last week in the first game of the tournament.
That's true.
They just locked it in straight away. Janna, no surprise, that's the trade we talked about. And obviously it's Samsung saying they want the stronger dual lane for CoreJJ and Ruler to not fall behind against this Tristana.
And Gragas Janna is a classic combo. Of course, they're changing things up right now, but they may be staring down a Varus Lulu, so we'll have to see which way they adapt here, RNG. This is definitely step one.
Final pick here for Samsung Galaxy, 15 seconds left. It is going to be the Varus lock-in for them. See if they can dish out the damage as we have seen throughout that Rageblade build.
That is a good 2v2 lane for Samsung. I prefer the Janna with Varus for the late game, just so he can literally stand still and fire away with the Rageblade, but this is much more about the laning phase now for Samsung's bottom lane. Scary stuff against a Galio though, and now we're gonna get some jungle bans. Nidalee instead of a Gragas and a Rek'Sai being targeted. Clearly thinking that one of the maybe special surprises RNG could have prepared would be the Nidalee.
Definitely possible. I know Mlxg is a fantastic Nidalee, but it's curious to see that one taken off the board in the second ban phase when the junglers that you mentioned are still available. To me, that's Samsung not wanting RNG to play quick through the jungle, but slow through the team fighting. They want RNG to play slower through the jungle so that Ambition can keep up with Mlxg.
Also interesting in our thoughts, because we've said Mlxg has been quite passive this event and seeing that, but still the option is there.
I mean, they have pushing mid with Galio, which is tough to deal with, and there's the Rek'Sai we talked about, so that does make sense. But they are willingly giving a Gragas over to Mlxg if he wants to play it, and just saying, let's take big team fights instead of taking, you know, early pressure.
There is a world where something like a Kha'Zix is looked at from Mlxg to give some complementary engage for something like the Galio combo if you want to find anything that goes forwards, and Rengar is a very vague example of something that does that as well.
And also Ezreal is a pick we've seen against Sejuani a few times. She's very slow in the early game. He can punish that, definitely with, you know, the fast pace of his own jungling, but once again with Gragas available, that is just the one standing out, being okay, this is the normal choice at least. I was looking at that Syndra, but again, when Galio is already there, it's not the greatest feeling in the world to play Syndra against.
You're able to do that Maokai Gragas here, it feels pretty good. You get a big tank in the top side, you have that big tank in the middle, and positioning in the fight for where you want to throw somebody around.
If you want to go full EDG, you could put a Lucian or something in the middle lane and send the Galio to the top lane. Mostly just send the Galio to the top lane. But there are options if they wish to flex here, RNG. I mean, Mlxg said in his interview they prepared something special.
It's very good, they did. I'm still waiting to see what that is. It could have been Ben. 28 seconds left. They have some time. No, it is locked in. It is going to be the Lee Sin Mlxg, so they take away the Nidalee, and he still says we're going to have some early game fun, boys and girls.
We're still waiting to see where Galio will go, if he's going to be mid or top lane. There's Cho'Gath and Maokai available. Sure, CuVee can pick the Trundle against it as his counter pick, but those are two safe tanks to go for LetME, which is what he's basically been playing during this tournament. Lee Sin coming in. Brock's had a great performance on it. You can still have some fantastic early game pressure. They're going for Rumble here, so RNG are stepping away from the safe late game team fight combo. It's all about protecting Uzi and are looking for a lot more carries here.
CuVee locking in the Camille. They call for that, so there is a lot of power coming from Samsung Galaxy along with the Smiles on that team as they lock in their composition as well. The Rumble for LetME in the top side. Even more damage coming into this comp when we were looking at the Maokai.
Yeah, in a battle for first seed coming out of this groups to get that through to the best quarterfinals run for yourself. We've gone for a Lee Sin in the jungle, and we've picked a Camille into the Rumble in the top lane. And that from Samsung says, we'll match your scaling. We'll one-up you with some split pushing, so have fun in your team fights.
I mean, CuVee has been waiting and waiting for someone to not just blind pick a boring tank in the top lane. He had to match. He's waiting for a chance to play things like Camille, some of these skill matchups where he can win this lane and completely take over the side lane. He can do it in this game here. Yes, you gotta respect the Galio early on, but Rumble that falls behind is super, super weak, especially because we know later in the game there's redemptions and lockets that are just gonna negate his damage.
I'm excited to see how this early game plays out. It's all about tracking what happens in that jungle. Is Mlxg really gonna pop off on this one after we've thought about the passive play just about the entire group stage for this RNG? We will have to see. A great composition as well from Samsung Galaxy, and I don't know if we will even get to the late game with the amount of fights we're going to be seeing here.
Exactly, we have to see. RNG wants to fight early. They want to get ahead here. They need this Rumble to be impactful in the first few team fights, and Samsung maybe thought they found that secret pick in Italy and banned it, and then it was Lee Sin coming in instead.
And we are on to the Rift. Mlxg knew that they were listening. He said, yeah, we'll interview and tell you we have something special. Try to figure it out.
Of course, this should be the loudest the crowd has ever been here in Wuhan for RNG, trying to get that victory up against the Korean powerhouse, who has had a very good Week 2 performance. But we've gone for offense versus defense, and RNG are going to kick it off with some early invades, proving that it is about offense.
Also to note, this match was the previous fastest of the group, 27-34 for these teams back and forth, and that was RNG's win. And
it really feels like Samsung said, okay, last time we fell behind early, they just engaged on us, we got stumped. Pick much stronger early on. So Syndra's in the mid lane, bot lane you have the Lulu Varus, super strong 2v2 lane, trying not to fall behind. But now again with the Galio in the mid lane, it does make it hard for Crown to have a lot of impact, at least in the 1v1. And this Galio, if played correctly, can impact the side lane so much.
Back and forth.
Not just the side lanes, though. That's the place that we're going to have to look at here. It's actually towards the jungle, perhaps, at level 6 as well. Lee Sin can be the aggressor. Lee Sin can go forwards and make those big plays, especially when he hits 6.
I mean, we will most likely see them try and gank mid, force the cleanse from Crown, and then return to that mid lane. It's so easy with the taunt from a Galio to get in range and just lock the Syndra down, and then, of course, Lee Sin will come in and finish the job.
And they're going to be meeting actually on the same side of the map. Not very often we do see that from junglers. See if they get a little intervention towards that top side with now the amount of damage provided.
And Lee Sin's not going to be on a ward because of the timing here. CuVee placed it to see at level 1, so now invisible, he goes into the enemy jungle.
I like the adaptation here from Ambition, though, going from buff to buff, trying to rush down the red buff before a potential invade can happen. Because Mlxg is here invading.
Looks like he's going to get the first hit in, wants to ensure he gets it. Red buff does go over to Ambition, so if he gets out, he has his buffs. And Mlxg is going to make sure he just doesn't have the HP to return, really.
And that's where the experience kicks in. You change your jungle pathing. You don't just go for a full clear or anything. No. He could easily have gone like Blue into Grump, but he knows I need to go buff to buff as fast as possible. We've seen it before in Sejuani, because then you can also start getting out of the map quicker, but mainly avoid this early invade from Mlxg.
Exactly, and he'll be super low now in his clear ambition because of how this started, and the other big advantage that RNG had wasn't just at least Sin's early pressure and early invade, but XiaoHu even walked in there to ensure the Raptors were free, and so that they could continue to keep Mlxg rolling as he stays on the top side of the map. The question for me now, though, is can RNG defend the bottom side if Ambition wants to go down there, or will it just be traded sides of the map?
Seems to be traded sides for now. Mlxg will, of course, take quite some time as at least in to kill the Crux up in that top lane. Meanwhile, in the 2v2 or in the 1v1 lane between LetME and CuVee, Camille in the early game are okay getting pushed in by Rumble. Rumble's early laning phase super, super strong. But it is once you start getting towards that Trinity Force on a Camille, you can all in the Rumble so easily. He can't really defend himself. All he can do back to you is just try and deal more damage than you're dealing to him.
Is that even lane you want to bring your jungler presence to, or just let CuVee have a field day?
It is a place you could absolutely bring your jungler presence to, for sure. LetME, though, I guess on the flip side, if you want to bring jungle presence up there, you'd almost want item spike timings from CuVee to make that successful, or to not have Mlxg nearby, which comes from the vision in the first place. And that's the thing that we're going to have to highlight here in this top lane is Trinity Force, big spike. Camille happy being pushed in. LetME can just get a haunting, guys. Exactly. And then suddenly he is stronger, where it's 3,700 gold to get a Trinity Force.
And one of the reasons a lot of teams don't want to play Rumble now is because they know that once they get 1 or 2 items on Rumble, that's where they gotta fight. That's where they gotta win the game. If you go later and later, there's more defensive options on the other side, and the Rumble kind of loses its value. So it's a bit of a snowball pick right now, where in the past, before all these big things happened like Redemption and these big shields that skills with bonus HP from Locket, well, before that you can play Rumble at any stage in the game and he will be fine. But struggles in the late game at the moment.
No wonder Ambition knows that XiaoHu is there, but it couldn't be Crown's move first. Flashes over the wall. Here comes Uzi looking to pick up first blood. Attack on Ambition. They are collapsing very hard with the thought that they can get out. Ambition lives with a sliver of health, and RNG has committed so much.
He's able to survive, albeit barely, and RNG with all of the flashes forwards. Just go down the left of the screen. That's 3 of them completely gone. They don't get the kill at all.
They invested so much right there. Let's see, Janna flash, we have Tristana flash, we have Lee Sin flash, all used, and Ambition crawling towards that blast cone, just gets there in the very end and gets out alive. That is a huge play for Samsung.
And RNG totally could have hit that blast plan if they were trying to coordinate, but I think they were just too afraid of Ambition being in the wrong place and saving him opposed to killing him. They don't take the risk.
You don't want to be that guy who hits it and it's the wrong side and you knock him away to safety. Oh man, you're 100% correct. They could have done it. Oh, that was a big one.
Easier said than done now that we can see it from the top side of the play. They were thinking of first blood for Uzi. This would be the greatest thing in the world. Just one more shot, just one more shot. Instead of kind of setting that play up a little bit more for themselves. Now we do have to keep track if Samsung Galaxy comes back, works on any of those flashes, continues to harass Mlxg in his jungle. We'll have to see. That all started from Ambition being a little too deep, and he was able to get out.
Right there, could have hit the blast cone instantly, but no one is doing it, and he gets onto it. He stays alive.
Hell picks for the save. Thank you so much from CoreJJ, says Ambition. And he gets out chugging that potion as well. Now, back to the bot lane, trading here, 43 to 49. Doran's blade to Doran's shield as they look to continue just farming it out. Remember, the summoners for Ruler are there. The barrier and flash.
You know, amusingly, Doran's blade might have even been the difference between getting the kill or not when you put it into perspective.
Honestly.
But Uzi's choosing to go for shield. He's choosing to survive through his early laning phase, but he's doing that as a Tristana, even though he's got a Janna protecting him as well. Very consciously aware that they will lose the 2v2 if they try and fight.
He's respecting the poke coming in, obviously, from Varus with a few hits, and then the same for Lulu. It's never like pure all-ins pre-6 from Varus Lulu lane, just always small traits where the Doran's shield will kick in and have a ton of value. Mlxg, level 4, is actually looking to invade this blue buff. Ambition is sitting there, level above him at the moment.
Why not? They're sharing the honeydew melons down there. It looks like they're not going to be sharing the blue buff.
There we go.
The problem for Samsung is they need to respect Galio ulti. Crown was coming from base, so they could actually not contest it despite Mlxg being a level down. Have to try and smite it away, but didn't happen.
Knowing exactly where the Sejuani is means that XiaoHu does have time to place some extra wards, knows the Raptors are clear. They know his ambition is going to be at his red buff. Yep. And now you watch as the communication trickles towards the top lane. LetME, very much aware of where the jungle is going to be, starts to move around himself. This constant flow is good communication from RNG, and it all starts by pressuring the blue buff, knowing that Crown's in base.
Seeing that Camille stat coming out of CuVee, ready to bring the power to this game, and it's going to be even scarier kind of if he's left alone up there to his own divide. XiaoHu slowly roaming down, and without vision of that mid lane, Samsung feels like they don't have enough to stay on the bot turret.
And we've seen this Syndra pick here against Struggle, against Galio. We've seen it so many times. When you blind pick Syndra, Galio comes in return. But this one was a Galio blind pick, answered by Crown with Syndra. And it's hard because you're going to get pushed in this lane, or at least the lane will like evenly push against each other, but you can't kill the Galio. He forces you back, and then you have to give him the wave, and he gets to move first, like we saw before.
Samsung now looking towards the opposite side of the map, knowing they can't really deal with bottom lane just evacuating the premises. Ambition and Crown are unlocked, but LetME has been playing so passively and safe for like 2 minutes now. He is just so afraid of what Samsung want to do towards him. They're looking towards bottom again. Mlxg is 6.
Ambition's on the way from base, but a TP coming. He hits the Q onto Ruler.
Slowly in, nice wild growth, stops a bit of the damage. Mlxg under the turret gets one save, but it's going to be the return kill. They're trying to keep going on to Ruler. They're trying to get control of the lane. If they lose Mlxg and more, completely not worth. They have traded one for Ruler, and now they will try for more. Looking at Ming very low. Uzi gets the ultimate, but it's not going to be enough. He starts to fire back. Knows he has the Grom damage, and here comes the burn from LetME. Crown gets himself into a bad spot. Has to flash out. Ming does finally fall. He was so low the entire time, and Samsung wanted it.
That was a 2-for-1 here. Samsung read the play. They know that RNG's win condition is trying to get this bot lane tower down, get Uzi ahead, because up in top lane, LetME is struggling. He can't do a whole lot in the 1v1. Ambition was on the way, and Ruler kind of just took the free kill when they dove onto him.
Yeah, a very hard time trying to kill Ruler at all, and it was well executed by Samsung on the flip side. CuVee has teleport, chooses not to use. Actually, it was just on cooldown before this. Mlxg probably shouldn't take this Q. He should look towards a ward hop of some kind. Ruler's 6, CoreJJ has W, and yes, it gets XiaoHu into the fray in the correct position, but he's killing himself and kicks Ruler away.
Yeah, exactly. And he could have waited for LetME to join a little bit longer. There was no Rumble ulti available either, so going for the play without all the cooldowns available was risky. And of course, with Samsung reacting well here, Ambition coming down and Crown moving in, they get a 2-for-1 trade to keep the tower alive, and CuVee gets a ton of damage on the top lane tower. Another replay.
Oh, I'm guessing we missed something while we were...
It's the farming of CoreJJ. Look at that.
It's so good.
Former AD carry last hitting.
Wait a minute. That was great. There's another one.
He's pretty good.
All right.
I like it. Nothing is actually happening live just yet.
All right.
Nothing to worry about.
I'm really confused. That was
We're back, baby.
We are back, and they are back to the mid lane here. Teleport is just about to be up for XiaoHu, so if they need to go somewhere to help this bot lane once again, they got the pressure on the turret that could take it down. A slight rotation from both Mlxg towards that area, but they're hovering. And
right now we have Ornn Sensor already and CoreJJ after that little fight where the Lulu picked up a kill and an assist. On your screen right now, you see the goal graph from week 1 when these two teams played each other. Fairly even during the first 10 to 20 minutes, and then a massive spike in favor of RNG. Big engage in the mid lane, led into 2 fights in a row, and then the game was done.
Yeah, I've seen a very interesting dynamic from RNG at this tournament where they want to be going forwards, but they're picking their moments a bit more cautiously, and it does seem to revolve very heavily around item spike timings. And as an example, at this point in the game, they are not at any position to fight. They don't have an ardent sensor compared to their opponent, so they won't choose to fight at a moment like this. However, once they complete it, they may start looking aggressively.
They lost a lot on that little trade before because, again, CuVee is just left alone. We talked about the Trinity Force already getting the Sheen is a big spike with the extra damage coming from his Q. Mlxg's top lane trying to help him. Meanwhile, Samsung are fighting the mid.
Well, they know they have the jungler there, and it is Mlxg trying to say, pick that fight top lane, get him to dive in so we have the ground control on him. And LetME Tries to see if anybody's there for the counter. Mlxg moves in.
It makes you wonder if he's ganking or if he's counter ganking as well, but he's finally seen his opportunity. It looks like he's going to try to seize this, assuming CuVee will fight him, but this is what happens on the opposite side.
Exactly, CuVee is a smart player. He knows his jungler is in the bottom lane, so he has no backup available. There's also Galio in the game, so right now, the Camille needs to just be passive. RNG's decision to go top here was not the correct one. You need to find a way to try and protect this bottom side, otherwise you're going to lose a tower, probably the first Drake as well. And CuVee was never going to play aggressive top when he knows his entire team is on the bottom side.
See what they can continue to do. 2-1 here. Just about 500 gold lead, 13 minutes in. Both of these teams obviously 4-1 coming out of the group stage. Samsung Galaxy looking to get the lead in the beginning. It did not happen for them in game 1 when RNG took the win. Remember, that game was just 27 minutes long, which means it ends in 14 minutes. I don't think we're going to have that this game.
Fairly unlikely given the state of the game at the moment. If Samsung are ever in a winning position, they're a bit more methodical with how they play this one out. A good opportunity here, however, for Samsung to try and make some plays around the Drake, given they just gave the blue buff over to Crown if they want. But given the jungle spawn timings, they seem to be on the opposite side of things.
Yep. 2 nice pink wards pushed forward. You can see Mlxg just placed one and cleared. They also have Tri-Brush locked down. So with that bottom pressure, LetME gets a little aggression, but this could kind of fan out into something big.
And RNG now can play around bot lane without tower diving Samsung. They just need to kill this tower. Uzi needs a few seconds near it. Have Mlxg on the bottom side, have the Galio move slightly down the river so he can always ulti, and then it should be enough pressure that allows RNG to take the first tower of the game.
It might just be that brute force. They already saw him coming through the Krug ward. Mid lane is pushed up, so XiaoHu has a chance to make his presence known in this bot lane if they do require it. Crown is just coming back in a lane, so they may be able to mismatch that very well in favor of RNG.
It feels like they need the Galio down here to try and make any play, and we're at a point, obviously the ward has spotted Mlxg, but Sejuani was also on the way down, so the Spidey senses were well and truly there for the Samsung roster. This Lee Sin 0-1-1 scoreline. Not the most impactful champion right now for what usually has a decent early game.
Mlxg 1-2 in his Worlds play on that Lee Sin, so he's trying to up that record just a little bit. Connects the Sonic Wave, resonating strike, and that resonates with RNG for another kill. XiaoHu starts to get a little bigger.
Last time they used all the flashes and didn't kill Ambition. This time around only had to use Mlxg's flash and they get the kill as well. Jungler is down now. Can they use it to secure the bot lane tower? Once again, it requires Mlxg to be around the bot lane and the Galio to be in position to ulti. That's what they're doing on the minimap at least, while LetME is just trying to stay alive in top.
Yeah, no flash, no kick for the Lee Sin means that XiaoHu is even more important, and so it looks like RNG may take the easy option, which is the Cloud Drake available for free. Top side of the map has teleports respectively for both of them as well, and so whilst LetME is holding on, the closer he gets to level 11, the better their dive starts to look.
Well, XiaoHu is now on the way, so again, it's about getting this top lane, or bot lane tower down before CuVee can kill the top lane tower in the top. You're dealing with this Camille that's going to outscale your top laner. We get the play, we get the Drake and the tower.
Pure pressure here. Coming in from RNG. It looks like CuVee will be the answer shortly after, which nicely opens up the map.
Just in time.
And again, the reason this happens for CuVee, it looks like a 1v1 granted. It's still the fact that Crown was up here, that Ambition and Crown were up here. All of the 1v1 pressure is actually perceived as LetME to be 1v3, God knows how many, right? He can't place vision. Mlxg is always on the bottom side of the map. He is making plays, however, while he's down there.
Great kick in, gets himself right in the middle of the fight, and RNG starting to collapse a bit more for these plays.
Good aggressive move here, but obviously Ambition got his wards down, so technically did his job before he died. And it was just a trade, 1-for-1 in turrets and losing at Cloud Drake, so definitely a small advantage for RNG, but nothing huge. Samsung are happy letting CuVee scale into this late game here. The Rage play is completely on the side of Ruler as well. And while there's less tanks in this game than normal, we're going to have to really explosive fights.
Yeah, and whilst we're scaling into items, if we look at the immediate item spikes, RNG have them. Every single member of the team has completed one major item. We just got the Trinity Force from CuVee though, and that may be the differentiator here. Maybe Samsung look at this and say we can actually fight now. We're more confident, or we're only going to split push because he's got his Trinity Force.
Exactly, yeah. CuVee, if it's up to him, it's a 1v1 game. Doesn't care about the rest of the map, just want to fight this Rumble 24/7. If you want to force around an objective at the moment, it's Rift Herald we're really looking at. RNG needs to set up vision though and push the top lane before they can even start it, and then they still risk maybe a bad fight.
Yeah.
Slow movement from everybody here, jockeying for position now. Rift Herald could be something to fight over to open up that next turret, but really it's just the jockey for position if anybody is willing to go for it at this point. Nobody wants to commit.
Yeah, and also Uzi's not going to win the 2v2 against the Rage Blade on the Varus.
Yeah.
I feel like 3 games in a row we've seen this now, where you get Rage Blade versus 24s, the Rage Blade one wins out. You can see RNG's thought process here and trying to force this fight around the Rift Herald.
He knows.
And I want to see if there was a reaction there to his Sonic Wave hitting. May try to do a bit of damage to it. Teleports up for both of the bot laners, but CuVee does have LetME pushed in at the moment.
All right, we get the force here. LetME is sitting very far back in his lane, so he can't TP away without getting stunned. But CuVee is using his window after pushing the bot lane to move up, realizing maybe he won't make it in time. And RNG here, because they have all these items completed, you highlighted Rusty, secure the Rift Herald.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Quick movement, quick kick. Chain of Corruption brings it over for a stun. Only Uzi gets locked up, but he'd already buffered the jump. No jump forward for CuVee as they get themselves to safety.
They use a lot to get themselves out alive. XiaoHu doesn't ult because he knew Crown would cancel it as well, so he flashes over the wall. Big flash, they get out safely. They'll be happy with that because it looks like Samsung don't have a trade available.
Yeah, gotta criticize that play from Samsung. Way too late they're reacting and saying they want to fight this one. They had time, but Rift Herald died while Ruler was clearing the wave in top, and I think then you just don't go for the fight.
And the other thing as well is when you just take stock at the end of the fight or the trade, CuVee teleported,
yeah.
LetME didn't. So whilst he had control of the bottom lane 1v1, he walked up, he still teleported in the end, where the Rumble didn't.
LetMe's like, we don't want to fight here, we just take it and leave. What are you doing? I mean, Samsung here, I think, quick panic moment after seeing the Rift Herald die, being like, oh, we need to get something back here, we're losing something, and end up over-forcing a play that cost them a TP that will slow them down now for the next few minutes.
I wonder what kind of fight they could draw towards the top side. If Mlxg is mid with that damage, also gets LetME possibly, they could really work something with XiaoHu heading towards that aggression. Looks like they kind of fold on that for now. It may just be Rift Herald towards mid as we see Uzi coming out of the base.
Certainly could be the Rift Herald play. Mlxg's the one to look towards as he has picked it up in this case. One other thing, though, that is spawning just there is the Baron. And when you look at the wards on the minimap, it's pretty red, pretty Samsung-oriented. They're doing very well with their vision control, even though the Herald went under the nose of them. And RNG pick it up. Now they're established in the area, which means they can start to control that area.
I think they're a little taken off. That was kind of a big audacity play from RNG. They said, what, they did that? It's kind of the situation you saw Samsung in for that moment. Now, however, they make their way up to try and protect the Rift Herald used towards the top side as they got mid pushed out.
Meanwhile, down the bottom lane, Crown are trying to make sure they can kill a tower and the Rumble so they can trade objectives here. CuVee going in!
Ultimatum onto LetME. Here comes the damage from Crown. They unleash all the power to take that down, but it's up to Samsung on the top side to protect this second tier.
Yeah, Crown just needs to recall and get up here and defend the turret because there's still a Rift Herald pushing in. Meanwhile, XiaoHu is in the mid lane, not in range to ulti just yet, and the wave is dying.
Yeah, they didn't know where XiaoHu was, though, so it'll disengage now. So far, so good from both teams as far as trades go, because they do have a turret killed down in the bottom lane. Samsung are doing their best to focus on getting CuVee ahead. RNG, they're looking at Uzi, but they're looking at the whole map, and they want to get these structures down.
A few more tactical sweeps to clear the wave. He'll get himself pushed up and then pushed out. See how much money he has to spend, sitting on 2.5 thousand. CuVee is going to go get some items.
And we're seeing some small moves here, kind of being a little bit off in terms of timing from RNG's side. When you spawn the Rift Herald top, be ready with your Galio so he can actually join either in the bottom lane to defend with the Rumble in a 2v2, or go top lane and join the push in for another turret. But XiaoHu was back in base when that Rift Herald was spawned. That meant that LetME couldn't actually stay safe in the bot lane, because otherwise Rumble can just ulti the wave bot, and in case they tower dive him, Galio ultis in on him, and you can actually get a turret on top side and try and defend bot. But because XiaoHu was in base when it all happened, Samsung could trade 1-for-1.
Mountain Drake picked up by RNG as they have complete objective control on the map this game. Looks like they'll be able to start crushing down a bit more. Goes over to Infernal Drake as well, so they might just have their eyes on that one. The jump in, it's going to be the Uzi initiation. Would we have expected any less as XiaoHu comes in over his shoulder?
Now they are pressuring the mid lane outer turret. That's the biggest win of all. Lulu was the person that ulted as with Ambition.
Good hit. Oh, just out of range of actually locking anybody up. They don't have to use too much to get out of that, and are now looking to possibly turn. Uzi up on the right side, says XiaoHu, get in front, let's get the taunt as Ming, or I'm sorry, Mlxg taking a bit of damage towards the bottom side, and RNG controls mid, forcing Samsung out.
Hitting those big ultis will be so important in this game with less tanks than normally. It's not this, 20-second long fight of just hitting the front line on both sides. If a Rumble gets hit by that ulti, he might die very quickly. Same thing for a Camille on the other side on Samsung here. So, Mlxg!
Very low, the last few orbs on the ground. Seal the deal, and Crown comes up with a solo kill.
Remember that deep vision Rusty talked about a few minutes ago? Well, Samsung went back in and placed it again, and just found the jungler.
They certainly did. They found him at the Wolf camp, and they'll get themselves the easy pick. Well done from Crown. His awareness at the moment of the map has been outstanding. As once again, we're setting up around this middle lane. The mid lane outer turret is what Samsung want. RNG just got it. So the map's slightly more open for RNG in that respect. It unlocks easier movements to something like Baron or Drake.
RNG have been missing an easier way to start a fight. They've tried a few times where it's Uzi jumping in or Mlxg trying to land a skill shot into a big insect play. But Samsung have been able to kind of disengage most of them, at least. So we're not seeing the same thing we saw in the first week of the group stages, where there was the Jarvan to always force team fights. It's not in this game. Much harder for RNG to do that.
Picking up the scuttle as well on the way in.
Feeling it.
Yeah, that's nice. Always feels good to be able to get that one over on the opponent. CuVee wasting a bit of time, heads back, still very, very big, and I believe you talk about it a little bit. They haven't really seen CuVee do damage to anyone other than LetME. So once he gets into this fight, he may start tearing through a few of these members of RNG.
Oh yeah, there's a real world scenario where CuVee just one-hits Uzi. He's got a Janna to protect him though, so the stars will have to align for Samsung. I think a lot of this comes down to ambitions engage, or Crown getting one of these crazy stuns off that can set everything up. Ruler exists as well as someone that could help with the engage, but for me it's all about ambition.
Luckily for Samsung, they can just play passive with the 4 members, with Ruler and Crown Ambition up here, because CuVee will just constantly perma push bot lane. It's on RNG to force a play to force CuVee away from that lane. They have double TPs that they can try and 2v1 gank him, but that's difficult because one of them is a Galio, not really dealing any damage. And forcing that team fight, as we talked about before, is really difficult with RNG's comp, so they don't have a good way of stopping CuVee from pushing, other than just starting the Baron straight up and force a 5-on-5 team fight around the big objective.
And we're starting to see that in the CS discrepancy as well. Crown's getting a few more lanes to himself. 40 CS in the top lane, 40 CS lead for Crown, which means bigger item spikes, and Samsung's going to start controlling objectives and controlling these turrets again.
Of course, to contrast that, when we look at the AD carry position, the 1-item Rage Blade is big for Ruler, but so's the 2-item crit build for Uzi, and then he's got the Zeal on top of that. So doing very well for himself is RNG's AD carry. It's starting to ramp up to be a very big deal, especially when the top laners in this game aren't Maokai Cho'Gath.
Exactly. And RNG needs vision control around Baron. That's the first step to forcing the objective.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need to be able to control mid lane. And they haven't been able to do that against Ruler, who's just instantly clearing the wave every single time. And then it's Samsung walking into the river. They place their vision and they're telling CuVee, go man, just start pushing. At some point, you're going to kill this Rumble 1v1 and you're going to take a tower. We just defend up here.
CuVee's role right now is just be that annoying guy that keeps split pushing, pull the other guy to you, don't ever let them have 5, make him question the teleport, and he's doing a damn good job of it right now. Questioning if he's down there, you can see the pings, but he's just hovering, playing that game. Schrodinger's Camille.
Everyone's playing the game at the same time. When Uzi disappears, CuVee shows respect. When Uzi shows himself, the rest of Samsung just run at him and try and pick him off. They're on control wards. Vision control is completely Samsung, but RNG aren't falling for any baits needlessly. They're protecting LetME by just being invisible.
Push towards mid, possibly the ulti here. Whimsy onto Ruler. They want to jump onto Uzi. Now they can easily get onto him, but he forces the flash after Ambition comes in with the ultimate. Nice try to start the play there, but they didn't find the target, and now RNG may have the chance to turn around. Ruler's got the wild goal flash in from XiaoHu. The finishing touches from Uzi on the outside. Scattered. He gets scattered back. CuVee might have an entry now, but they jump left and right. CuVee finds one, but the rest of RNG find him them.
That was Samsung trying to force a fight here because CuVee was moving from bot lane to the mid lane. RNG said, thank you, we want to fight. That's the only way for us to win, and they took the fight.
It goes perfect for RNG, except for CuVee getting a big play in the end to find Ming. Ming did expertly navigate the fight at the beginning. RNG still come out on top, get themselves some turrets in the middle lane. A bit of an inflation of gold in their pockets will be fantastic to have, as long as they don't give Samsung a Baron on respawn. These recalls still have to work out from RNG.
See how they pan out after this. We'll see the fight one more time, as CuVee is just waiting patiently.
Everyone is ready for this fight here. Double TP coming in early from RNG. Samsung enforcing the engage here. Ruler takes a lot of damage up on the top side, even a Rumble ulti used onto him. So every single ulti so far is blown on Ruler specifically. Then the flash taunt from XiaoHu, and now there is enough DPS to actually kill the Varus.
And still ultimately played well by Ming to survive until the point where he goes down. Uzi playing well, Ruler playing well, even with all of the ultimates thrown on him, just shows that these teams have got big priorities set on killing their opponents, not protecting themselves.
It was fun to see both teams actually look to start the fight at the same time. Double TP came in just when Samsung moved out towards the mid.
Here we go.
This is the Baron start we mentioned before to force the 5-on-5.
The smite's there, remember no Cho'Gath. It's the smite fight, a level 13 to a level 12, which gives a bit more damage. Uzi picks up the Baron. Ambitions left in the back of the pit, but do they have enough damage? They want to focus something else. Ruler is just making XiaoHu a pincushion, and they turn on him. Here's the attack. There's the kill. LetME gets the first one, and the fight opens up as Ambition makes it away limping.
Uzi barely doesn't get that kill, but RNG with the Baron compliments of a Tristana auto attack. They got home.
So many big things just happened the last few minutes. The team fight in the mid lane allowed RNG to get away from a split pushing game and force a Baron fight. They rush it down, quick shot calling. Samsung react by trying to fight, and they lose the fight.
Very reminiscent of game one. We said 14 minutes ago it didn't look too much the same, but a 20-minute fight swings the game in favor of RNG, and the base is wide open now on the side of Samsung Galaxy.
For just a second there, it looked like RNG were going to keep moving forwards, but they cut the wave. They look towards bottom. They won't go for two inhibitors. Crown's the only person left dead, but that is a big swing of power.
And as soon as we get this replay, let's take a very close look at Ruler. He's mispositioning in this team fight here. Notice how as soon as the Baron dies, the fight breaks out. AD carry from Samsung down here in the middle of your screen actually is where you need to look. Notice how he's actually walking into melee range of XiaoHu, not respecting the fact that everything can then land onto him. He literally tells XiaoHu, please jump onto me, and then the Rumble ulti comes down as well, and the AD carry dies. You have to respect that. Galio, Ruler did not, and he died first.
The most important part of all of this as Crown dies as well is when you think back to why is he even in melee range without flash from a fight that happened 1 minute before that. That's the big problem that you're experiencing. CuVee 0 damage was kicked away by Mlxg, just throwing that one out there as well.
And we're simply not seeing that late game prowess from Ruler we've seen in the LCK during the summer split. He's made some of these mistakes already during this tournament. Backfired big time here. Sure, they lose the Baron no matter what. But there's no reason as a rage-played Varus, who you need to protect, to then walk into range of a Galio so he can CC you, and a Rumble ulti as well.
30 minutes just crested in the game, 6-5, and finally we break more than a few thousand of a gold lead. Now 4K, just about in favor of RNG. They're going to use this power, they're going to use their Drakes to now start dropping these turrets as they head towards the top side again, funneling into this. Could be a big hit for Ambition, but they have to find their targets. Crown trying to deliver damage from the outside. It does not look like RNG will give up. They are relentless, and they are not respecting the defense of Samsung Galaxy.
The engage is really weak from Samsung when Uzi, oh my god!
Flash in, gets a 3-man top, Ruler and CoreJJ almost depleted immediately. It's going to be Ambition going down first. In comes XiaoHu for a short trip, but he wants to join the party even more. CuVee says walk this way, and RNG takes a few steps back to take a lot more forward. The inhibitor going down, and RNG looking at the Nexus.
RNG see a small opening, and then every single member on the same page just engage straight on to Samsung. XiaoHu's Galio has been spot on in this game here. It's setting up everyone else from RNG to succeed. They got the Baron buffs, they got super minions, they want to finish.
Bringing in the minions on their back. The teleport now coming in. XiaoHu back into the fight from base. Fully beefed up. They are going right onto Ruler. He gets measured. He gets downed. And now it's RNG looking at the Nexus turrets. 32 minutes in, putting an impact on this game. RNG, Royal never give up. Looking to lock in the first seed for Group C. And they will do so. Heading to the quarterfinals. Never give up. 5-1 in the group stage. A loss at the beginning of the day, completely brushed off, and they find themselves sitting atop Group C as the first seed.
They do it for China, man. They get that first seed for themselves. They accelerate the game. A full Chinese roster representing the LPL at Worlds, and they come out beating a Korean team, not once, but twice.
So important to get the first seed. Currently, we have Mlxg as the other first seed.
Yes.
SKT sitting as a heavy favorite to get first seed in their group. This now means RNG will dodge those two teams. Super important for them to try and make it further in the tournament, because they're looking at the final right now. They don't care about just the quarterfinal. They want everything.
RNG with some of the fastest games of this group in Group C, as they all went quite long, as we said, and this one just 5 minutes after their first victory over Samsung.
And we just have to respect the shot calling on RNG. They were in such a tough spot. They had no Baron control.
Yep. There
was an enemy Camille with 2 items, destroying their top laner. They needed a miracle fight in the mid lane to get some control back. Double TP in, Samsung engages onto them, fight is on. Right after, what do? They rushed the Baron to force another 5-on-5. That was their way back in this game, and they took it instantly. That's why they end up winning.
And it happens at the same time as Samsung wanting to fight. RNG choose to make the decisions as well. Again, the decision making from item spikes. Both teams think they have what it takes, and RNG, they win the team fight.
You know, our analyst has said they kind of favored that fighting, those numbers from RNG, being able to get into the scuffle, and they really showed that they know how to reorganize and figure out what the priority target is in those fights.
Exactly, and then some of the decisions from the draft, you know, not going for Janna with the Varus meant there was less protection for Ruler, so his positioning had to be spot on, and it was not spot on in fights here. He ended up dying. Sure, a lot of things were invested to try and kill him, but the Baron one, that was a big one.
Yes, it was. All right, so for more on RNG's win, let's get some thoughts from our analyst, Dash.
Thank you very much, Riv. An explosive final game between RNG and Samsung Galaxy, but the hometown favorites in RNG, they reign supreme at the end of the day, move to 5-1, and secure that first seed, moving into the knockout stage. More importantly, I can't believe QuickShot was trying to flame you guys after day one for your predictions. What's up with that?
Brock saw the light towards the end of the day, made the rare correct flip-flop. Those usually backfire. We all can take credit for this one.
All right.
It was definitely RNG.
It was definitely RNG, and they do it pulling out that Rumble and the Lee Sin, indexing a little bit more towards the early and the mid game, and then, as was mentioned, they found the right fight.
We finally got to see the actual RNG. This is how they play almost every single day in the LPL. These slow starts, these big mid-game spikes, that hasn't been RNG. This is the true ingredients that you want to look for.
And this is the RNG that I predicted based on. This is the RNG I thought would show up to the tournament. It took a long time to get here, but they went for the Rumble. They ignored the double tank. They looked for the playmaking, and that is the sort of thing. This level of micro skill, this level of aggression, you don't see that pairing in Korea too often. Samsung Galaxy doesn't have to play teams as talented, as gifted as RNG with an aggressive mindset that often. Mlxg, certainly. Rox Tigers last year, certainly. But there's few teams that can marry those two things. I thought if they could get them together, RNG would be the team to take down Samsung. And they were, and it makes it so exciting to have a Chinese team now as first seed. But for everyone other than RNG, you do a kind of cower and fear that we will have for the first time since 2015 a Korean second seed to come and face one of these first place finishes.
Yeah, it's only the second time a Korean seed hasn't gotten first in the group since we had this format in 2014, and that's not to take away from how close this game was. Like, the moment when RNG pulled the trigger on that mid-game fight was the breaking point of the game. Uzi had just completed double Zeal before Samsung had armor, but also CuVee was going to win every single one-on-one from then until the end of time.
You've brought it up, so let's get into it. The fight that broke in favor of RNG and secured them the first seed moving on into the knockout stage, brought to you by Acer Predator.
Yeah, and let me just give you the cheat sheet for how to know when an LPL team is going to fight. Check the ADC items. Have they purchased something? Guess what? They're running face first into the meat grinder, and this time around it was into Samsung.
And avoiding a fight, I think Samsung would have taken it, but they opted into the fight themselves with the very aggressive teleport. They're just about able to take down Ruler, who was caught a little bit too close multiple different times. They could change target, they had priority, and then the Baron.
And here's the thing. You call this a mistake, you call this bravado, you call it overconfidence.
It's RNG.
To me, it's another Friday and the LPL. No Korean team makes that play. Samsung didn't have the experience, and RNG just beat them because they said, we are better on the day, we will get this smite, and they walked away with the Baron.
And that's the confidence as well as the growth we see from RNG, because I think in previous iterations, if they lose that first game of the day to G2, they don't recover 5 hours later to beat Samsung with this level of decisiveness, with this Lee Sin pick, by the way. Hadn't played it here at Worlds, at least for Mlxg, and he made so many plays on it.
Dirty gold graph. An exceptionally dirty gold graph when it spikes like that and then ends just minutes later.
And decisive about the Baron call, I don't know if that is the word. They gambled, you know, at the end of the day, that was a gamble Baron. You remember back to the Baron that Longzhu was complimented on that won them the game in their group last week. That was calculated. We said, oh, they just couldn't get there. For sure they could get there here. This was very much, if we don't burn the Baron and take it, we probably lose because late game, things will get tricky. They went for the gamble when they needed to. They lose the game if they don't take the risk. And that is what you don't see in Korea. You don't see that level of gambling, but it was controlled. It worked out. Of course, it was all over the place, and it won them the game.
And it was the right time to take a 50-50. They never would have had the setup once Camille split push got going. That's the important thing, because sometimes we flame teams for 50-50s. I would still credit RNG for going for that 50-50, even if they didn't get it.
I mean, Uzi, the one to secure it, and we'll get to talk to him in just a moment. Royal never give up. Secured that first place in Group C. For more, let's head over to Shox to hear from Uzi.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined here by Uzi once again after RNG clinches that first seed, that all-important first seed going into quarterfinals. Mlxg promised us something very, very special, but it turned out to be very RNG comp, but a very carry top laner and jungle. Did that in the end make the difference and make you be able to beat Samsung here in the last game?
所以在上场的采访当中的话呢，香哥有提到说，你们为了三星准备了一些比较特殊的一些战略，那是不是说指的是这场比较像是 RNG 的一种套路，然后是一个上野都是比较 carry 的一个输出型的英雄呢？
这个也有吧，就是我们会有很多的新东西去展现给大家，这也是我们每个队员什么都会玩，也打得比较好的地方。
It's kind of like what we had in mind too, but we'll have like some more new things that we want to show the audience too. We want to showcase that each of our players are able to play different type of champions at different type of comps.
Oh, a bit of sending a message, I guess, to who you might meet in the quarterfinal. And Uzi, it's been a magical day for RNG. You guys top a very difficult group. You will probably avoid every Korean team in the quarterfinals. Are you starting to dream of another final for Uzi in the Bird's Nest in Beijing?
所以想问一下，你们今天已经以小组第一的身份出现了，那这说明你们在8强当中的话，很有可能是遇不到另外一支韩国的战队了。那是不是就可以把梦想放的长远点，放在鸟巢了？然后是不是又是一年Uzi 在世界总决赛呢？
我在8强没有遇到韩国队也是非常开心的，因为越晚遇到他们，可能赢的几率会更大一点。然后我也相信我们现在的这支队伍能够有进决赛的可能。
So if we're avoiding a Korean team in the quarters, I'm very happy about that. And if we can meet a Korean team later on, that means that's a higher chance of us winning. So I really hope that my team does get a chance into going to finals.
All right, we'll see if that happens. So the million-dollar question is, if you're not meeting a Korean team, is there any other team that you might be afraid of that you really want to avoid meeting or would really like to beat in the quarterfinals?
那既然我们碰不到了 LCK 的队伍了，在8强当中，那你会另外别的队伍不想碰到谁呢？在8强？
我更不想遇到我们的中国队伍。
I do not want to face another LPL team.
All right, well, maybe you could get a bit of revenge there either way, but still fantastic day, Uzi, and fantastic tournament so far for RNG. Thank you very much, Lexi, once again. And that's the end of the second day of group stage. We're going to head back over to the analyst desk.
Thank you, Shocks. Uzi, a player with a storied history here at the World Championship. My question to you guys is this the roster that gives him the best opportunity to take a title?
Ooh.
Yes. I think, honestly, is it going to be this year? Maybe not. But I think the core tenet of an old Chinese roster, removing some of the other variables. Because remember, those times that he made finals, specifically the second time, was with Korean players. It was with Insec. It was with Zero at the time. I think this is a really important thing. I think China's tending towards the old Chinese lineups. Of course, OMG went the same way. Other teams are rumored to go the same way. There's a lot of talent on this roster. Have we ever seen the ceiling with so many different rumors and innuendos of members falling out and other kind of issues? They haven't been able to field the starting five for most of the year. I think they have a lot going on here. And when they do answer another question we had, okay, they lost earlier today. They had a match against Fenerbahce that was a different kind of game. In a high-pressure game, can they perform? They again answered a question. They topped a difficult group. They won a pressure final match. I think things are starting to line up, and you can't ignore RNG.
And likewise for Samsung Galaxy. I mean, they were a finalist last year, so similarly, they're striving for greatness. What about this squad? Finishing second place in the group, but with many close matchups.
Yeah, they're still not eliminated, and this is a team that can overcome obstacles. They
9-0, right?
They lost one game in groups last year, 2 games in group this year to a much improved RNG. Their draw is going to matter a lot.
It's a bad one. It's a bad one, Chat. They're likely to face a Korean team.
Yeah, if SKT gets first, it's 2 out of 3. They play Longju or SKT. Both teams they finish below in the LCK standings.
All righty, well, only time will tell there. As you just saw, Royal Never Give Up managed to take the first seed in Group C ahead of Samsung Galaxy, while 1907 Fenerbahce and G2 eSports are out of Worlds 2017. Tomorrow, it's all about Group D, where 3 teams have a 2-1 game record. And so while we came into the week saying, hey, all of the other groups seem a lot more determined and decided, it's Group D, the one with the current 3-way tie, that it's really anything can happen. Well, again, if these last 2 days are any proof of anything, then it very much is.
Listen, 0.42% of pick'ems are now correct. I thought something that was funny about yesterday is most NA pick'ems are wrong, and Korean pick'ems were doing the best.
Yeah.
Not anymore, because I highly doubt the LCK fans from Korea were predicting RNG to beat them in this group. So anything's going on. You didn't do a pick 'em. You can't say that.
To put an absolute value on that, that's less than 20,000 pick'ems that are left correct at this point. So very few people are still in the running for that. So if you're still in it, good on you. But it all starts with a clash tomorrow between the Flash Wolves and Misfits Gaming at 12 p.m. local time. That's 9 p.m. Pacific time and 6 a.m. Central European Summer Time. We'll find out who joins Longzhu, Fnatic, Royal Never Give Up, and Samsung Galaxy in the quarterfinals by the end of the day.
Yeah, and we got to see Fnatic come back from 0-3. Flash Wolves is the Pool 1 seed in that group, so much can still happen in that group. I don't think any single one of those 2-1 teams should be feeling safe right now about getting out.
No, they must win every single game tomorrow, the Flash Wolves, if they want to move on, but they definitely can do it. We've seen it done before. I was told that, confirmed by our statisticians.
Okay.
You gave me that look.
Okay. we'll touch on this later.
All right. We're going to go work out some math. Remember to stick around for Worlds tonight, starting in just a few minutes as Shocks, Kobe, and Azale take a look back on today's games. Now for myself, the Cash, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more Worlds 2017. Good night.